Welcome to another episode, everyone. James Miller, the founder of the Rollin 30's Crip. Yes, he founded the Harlem Crips, and he also terrorized Los Angeles and had individuals scared to come outside of their homes. In fact, he earned the moniker the Brim Killer. That was his nickname. And then, after terrorizing Los Angeles for so long, James Miller ended up getting life in prison at the age of 21 years old. While there in prison, there were many dastardly deeds that transpired as it related to this individual. And then he ended up losing his life at the tender age of 50 years old while still there in prison. James Miller, the founder of the Harlem Crips. This is Warren Cali. Shout out to Warren Cali.
I'm going to detail the story of Big James Miller from the original Harlem 30 Crips. Big James was born James Miller on July 27, 1955 in Los Angeles, California. Initially, James grew up in a two-parent home, but his parents would later split up, and he would later move around Los Angeles in various different areas. Much of James' childhood, he would be back and forth between his mother and father's homes, putting him to go to different schools in different areas and meeting a host of new people. As a kid, James was chubby, so he was often picked on because of his weight. But by middle school, James would go through a transition, and his body would change with him becoming muscular. And the past issues that he faced would build hate and vengeance in James, and anybody who messed with him in the past or the future were going to pay for it. Over the teenage years of James' life, he became known for being a tough individual, and he would go against anybody who opposed him. During the 70s and James' teenage years, Crips and Blood gangs started forming all over Los Angeles, and James and his crew of friends will form a gang called the Harlem Godfathers. And James is credited as being a founder of that gang. James would go to various high schools like Dorsey.
The Harlem Godfathers. Keep that in mind. The Harlem Godfathers. Apparently this is how they started off. And then they became the Harlem Crips. But here, James Miller started all of it with the Harlem Godfathers. He's credited with starting the gang
In manual arts and was known as a football star. But James was still active and gangbanging heavy in the streets. And at manual arts, he would get into it with the Brims, a gang a lot of the Crips hated. The Brims would eventually become Bloods and a top rival to several Crip gangs, like the gang that James would be in. With everything that James was involved in the streets, James would go to juvenile hall and even youth authority during his teenage years, and he would further his name in the gang world, being known for his size, which he would gain the name Big James or BJ, and his heart and his leadership and fighting skills got him respect from several sets. Back on the streets, Big James would become even more vicious over time. His street activities would gain him the name the Brim Killer, with the Brims or other Bloods being his gang main rival. And that's something Big James would take to heart, trying to...
Yeah, and whenever you have a name like this, you end up taking it to heart. I've seen individuals with certain names, disrespectful names for another hood, and they feel the pressure to live up to this. But this is the same old story, right? The same old song. We hear it all of the time. Individuals grow up in a gang-infested neighborhood. They want to protect themselves. They want to protect the neighborhood. They start a gang, and then the gang ends up being something other than what they had in mind when they started the gang. A lot of these individuals start these gangs to protect themselves or protect the neighborhoods, and then the gangs devolve into something where it's extremely violent and it is destructive and murderous. Instead of protecting the community, the gangs end up causing genocide in the community. James, here we go, James Miller had earned the nickname, the Brim Killer. This is how much work this individual was putting in. At the time, though, they're still just the Harlem Godfathers, not the Harlem Crips yet.
Destroy every rival in his way. The Harlem Godfathers would later become the original Harlem Crips and other names like the Rollin 30 Crips off their geographical location within their turf.
The original.
With their turf being located.
The original Harlem Crips. So we talking about, OHC. It was original Harlem Crips, then the Rollin 30 Crips. All right.
On the west side of South Central, within the streets, based in the 30s. By the mid-70s, Big James was causing a lot of destruction in the streets, with him being a part of a lot of shootings, a lot of gang wars, and also a lot of robberies. But by 1976, James would be arrested on a long list of charges, from a long list of robberies, kidnappings, and also murders. And this would be a long dragged out case that took 4 trials to finally decide Big James and his co-defendant's fate. After 3 mistrials off this case, Big James will be sentenced to life in prison at the young age of 21. While in prison, Big James' reputation and status will grow, becoming one of the most reputable and known Crips mentioned in history.
Life in prison at the age of 21. After all of these mistrials, he was fighting the case and then ended up getting life at 21. He had already named the moniker the Brim Killer at 21 years old and had founded a gang, a very notorious gang. He had founded this gang. So at what age was he when he founded the gang? If he got life in prison at 21, he had to have been 17, 16, 15 years old when he founded the gang. But it looks like he got life in prison for something other than an unaliving, which is not good, which is rare, particularly back in these days, to get life in prison for different charges that does not involve taking someone's life was rare. Of course, later on with the 3 strikes law and everything else, people would get life in prison for a very trivial crime. But at this time in the 80s, 70s even, you were not receiving a life sentence for something other than something extremely serious. It's something that took someone's life, perhaps. He ended up with life in prison nonetheless. Unless I missed that. I don't know. He said some robberies and all of this. Warren County said he had some robberies. Nevertheless, life in prison, and it goes down from there.
He will be a major part of several Crip organizations in prison, like Blue Magic and CCO. CCO will mean Consolidated Crip Organization, but CCO will later disband on several factors, mostly being inner circle turmoil. And Big James will even have his own issues with CCO over him calling shots that will lead to several members getting disciplined, which led to beef within the gang. That move will lead to Big James almost losing his life. After several years in prison, James will start to change his gangster ways and focus on becoming a better man, and he will pick up skills and trades while in prison. Big James had endured a lot of chaos in his life, from juvenile hall, youth authority, and prison, which he went to prison for the rest of his life at the young age of 21. So in his final days of life, Big James will be at peace until his death in 2006 at the age of 50. Big James spent over 30 years of his life being locked up, and he gained a deadly reputation from the streets to prison. The gang he helped form, the Rollin 30 Crips, will go on to be one of the most known Crip gangs in Los Angeles and around the world, having different branches in other cities and other states. All that came from Big James doing. This will conclude.
Damn. Shout out to Warren Kelly. Subscribe to his channel. Subscribe to this channel as well. The Inside Story with me, Damian Porter. Rest in peace to Big James Miller. Started the Harlem Godfathers, which eventually became the original Harlem Crips, which was also and is also known as the Rollin 30 Harlem Crips. And 21 years old, got life in prison, and then ended up passing away at 50 years old. A lot of individuals in prison are preserved. They outlast and outlive a lot of people. You don't really expect it. I don't really know the circumstances of his death. He did not much elaborate on it. Nevertheless, whatever it was, he passed away, unfortunately, there in prison after 30 years, going there when you're 21 years old and never make it out. They letting lifers out now. They letting a lot of lifers go home. He would have been home by now. He'd have been home for sure, no doubt. It wasn't even no murder. He'd have been home. Dang. Crazy, man. And that's this destructive lifestyle that we're living still constantly. We have to do better, brothers. Rest in peace to him. Shout out to Warren Cali. Shout out to the Harlem Crips as well. Stay safe and stay free, people.